Western churchianity has attempted to popularize the idea that the church is spiritual Israel and that it has replaced literal physical Israel. Does the Bible support that teaching? Let's give it a honk! Has the church replaced Israel? Short answer, no. In fact, most of the people who try to argue Israel messed up too badly and the church replaced them will use the grafted in verses from Romans chapter 11 to argue their point. To those people, I say, stop cherry picking the verses you think support your viewpoint. That same passage contains these verses. I ask then, did God reject his people? By no means. I am an Israelite myself, a descendant of Abraham from the tribe of Benjamin. Again, I ask, did they stumble so as to fall beyond recovery? Not at all. Rather, because of their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make Israel envious. For if their rejection brought reconciliation to the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? For if God did not spare the natural branches, he will not spare you either. And if they do not persist in unbelief, they will be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. As far as the gospel is concerned, they are enemies for your sake, but as far as election is concerned, they are loved on account of the patriarchs, for God's gifts and his call are irrevocable. Literal physical Israel has been chosen for very specific things spelled out in detail in Daniel chapter 9 in the 77s. As discussed in previous videos, 69 of those 7s have passed. The last is the 7-year period we call the Great Tribulation. Israel's prophetic clock, as it were, has been paused during the church age and resumes when the restrainer and the church are removed via the rapture. The 144,000 sealed during the tribulation are literal Israelites, specifically listed by each tribe. The physical land known as Israel belongs to God. In Joel chapter 3, we see God deals with the nations for how they treated his people and divided up his land. Despite what the Tucker Carlsons and Candace Owens of the world are telling you, it is not heretical or unchristian to acknowledge that Israel is God's, that God isn't finished with them yet, and that we should pray for them. There will be a physical third temple. It is mentioned in Revelation chapter 11 for measurement, and the outer court is excluded because it has been given to the Gentiles to trample for 3.5 years. I believe the temple will be built on what is known as the Dome of the Tablets, aptly named because that's where the 10 Commandments once rested in the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy of Holies. This locale not only lines up with the Eastern Gate, as it should, but places the temple far enough north that the Dome of the Rock will be in the outer courts, the court of the Gentiles, as it were. And if you're going to argue that John was told to measure the second temple, then you've neglected the fact that Revelation was written approximately 95 AD, some 25 years after the second temple was destroyed. There must be a physical third temple in order for the Antichrist to set himself up in it and declare himself to be God. Israel was reborn in one day on May 14, 1948, as prophesied in Isaiah 66:8. The existence of Israel, not only as a country, but as a people, with their language and customs intact, after 2,000 years of being dispersed, is nothing short of miraculous. Name one other culture that has done that. What everyone seems to get hung up on is that if you demonstrate any level of support for Israel, then that must mean you're supporting their corrupt government and its actions. Show me a government that isn't corrupt, and I'll show you a beautiful, tropical beachfront location in Kansas. Loving a country or a people does not equate to supporting its government. I love the USA, but I despise its government. I love Colorado, but I despise its government. Yes, there are evil rich men of Israeli heritage, just like there are of any nationality. Of course, those corrupted by wealth and power will pursue more wealth and power, so naturally those people, regardless of nationality, will try to rule the world and hate everyone they consider to be beneath them. It's not a Jewish trait, it's a sinful human trait. And to the concerted effort of the internet attempting to cement their narrative that all Jews are hateful of any and all non-Jews, I have personally interacted with several Israelis, and they were all respectful, kind, and even funny. Many were the type of human that would give you the shirt off their back if you were in need. Anyone who has spent any amount of time in the customer service field knows that America has no shortage of the very worst that humanity has to offer. Does this mean that all Americans are mean, hateful, and want to rule the world? Of course not, so shut up already with this lie from Satan. Hey, Western Churchianity, instead of hating on them and trying to blame them for everything that's going wrong in the world, maybe try sharing the gospel with them. Not the everything revolves around me prosperity gospel, but the real gospel, that the power of God brings salvation to everyone who believes. First for the Jew, then for the Gentile. See you in the trenches.